Alright, let's go ahead and talk about our leveling process a little bit with this character. This was my league starter, and I did experiment a lot with various new skills and some of the reworked skills, rebalanced skills. So I can't say for sure what the fastest progression is in terms of what to choose, but it's probably just Stormbrand or whatever other, sort of race setups you want to use if you just want to level as quickly as possible. But I switched to Divine Ire as soon as I could. I really loved the skill, and, it clears fast enough. I'm not one who cares about, absolute fastest speed clearing, but if you do, then just do your standard kind of race setup or whatever. With that said, in terms of the ascendancies, I did go through Sanctuary and Pious Path first. These two nodes just offer so much quality of life, damage, and defense that they're just such well-rounded nodes early. You get mana regen, you get ES regen, you get life regen, you get extra damage, you get extra cast speed, you get extra attack speed, the permanent consecrated ground uptime. They're so good. It's so good to start these nodes. I think you're crazy if you don't. The other route that you go, first of all, this is just significantly weaker, but aside from that, the ignoring monster elemental resistances on crit is not nearly as good until you're critting often as well. It's not as important until later because you don't encounter the higher tier map mods that give monsters more resistances, and you're not fighting Guardians or a Shaper or anything like that that just has higher resists, so it's not as important. So highly recommend going here first and then here. In terms of the rest of the tree, I basically rushed anything that provided me with elemental resistances, life, mana regen, that kind of stuff that's really good early. So like this node is fantastic. I basically rushed straight over here, and then over here, and then cut through the starting areas right away, grabbing Mind Over Matter along the way. So originally I did path through these nodes right here instead of up along that route. This was a respec I did later, once I didn't need these base stats anymore, and then once I started to grab this stuff that was kind of along the path there. But until you do, you're probably better sort of rushing through the starting areas like that, and then just grabbing whatever efficient nodes you happen to pass by. And then as you start branching, up to the other sections a little bit later, you can decide what you need at the time. Do I need mana? Do I need life? Do I need ES? Do I need cast speed? Etc., etc. In terms of items and things, I did use this as a league starter, so I didn't actually use most of this leveling gear, but this is the typical kind of leveling stuff I use. These kinds of things for resists here, attack and cast speed, just a solid shield that gives life regen. I did actually use this scepter because a friend of mine happened to find it, and I used it from like level 5 to like level 85, I guess it's level 10 to 85, and it served me very well. So highly recommend this. There's probably some other decent options as well, but all that extra crit is really, really useful. Also, I definitely recommend the Mark of Submission ring. Warlord's Mark on hit, which you can get with an Elder Ring later, is super useful for mana and life sustain and tankiness with endurance charges, so highly recommend trying to snag one of these. The other thing I would say is that basically until you get Inevitable Judgment, I would grab yourself a Wave of Conviction and Fizz to Lightning 2-link setup somewhere in there, maybe faster casting or whatever with it, and this allows you to reduce their lightning resistance, which is primarily the kind of damage you're going to be doing with Divine Ire. So highly recommend doing this during the leveling process and just hitting tougher enemies, bosses and stuff with this before you bathe them with your Divine Ire beam.